Okay, so you've watched plenty of videos already about making the move to Utah, and if that's you and you're considering making the move here, I've created a video here that will act as a great checklist. But in addition to that, if you're looking to make the move here and you want to reach out to us, we can share this checklist with you, as well as so many other resources that are going to help you make that move here and make sure that it's as smooth as possible. All right, so moving to Utah in 2025 is just as popular as it's been in previous years. Utah has been one of the top destinations in the entire country in terms of growth and rate of growth since 2002, but specifically and more so since 2010. And when people really strongly consider making the move to Utah, there's so many questions. People have both questions that are really kind of on the macro level as well as very specific on the micro level and perhaps a little more personal. So depending on your situation, you're definitely going to want to do a little bit of research and make sure that you understand all of the pros and cons of living in Utah. What are the best places to live here? What are the things that you need to know in order to make a successful transition from whatever state you're coming from so that you can make sure that Utah turns out being a great place for you and or your family as well. And of course, Utah's popularity as a relocation destination has exploded in recent years and is going to continue to be such as the trends indicate and the population forecasts show what will be happening here in Utah in the coming years. And that's not just 1 or 2 years out, we're talking 5, 10, 15 years out. So what is coming to Utah is really important to me as a real estate broker and agent myself, but also to help my clients guide them through this transition so that you know the best possible answers to your questions to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success. And most important, what you're going to learn in this video is a step-by-step process and a checklist that you can follow when moving to Utah yourself. And with that said, let's get started. All right, first and foremost, we've got to make sure that we choose the right area for you. Now, if you're not from Utah and you haven't visited Utah a lot, you're definitely going to have questions around where is the best place, where's the best metropolitan area, or maybe it's a rural town. Whatever it is, what's the best place for you and your family? And Utah's pretty simple. We can basically divide Utah up into 5 metropolitan areas, the smallest being Cache County, which is up in Logan, up to the north of the Wasatch Front and Salt Lake City. And the other one is all the way in the southwestern corner of the state in St. George, and that is the St. George metropolitan area down in Washington County. And despite the popularity of these 2 smaller metropolitan areas, it's the 3 major metropolitan areas here along the Wasatch Front in northern Utah that attracts the most people as well as the most relocators here to the state of Utah. And those 3 metropolitan areas are the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, the Ogden metro, and the Provo-Orem metro down south. Now, for many people, they're really drawn to the city, and that's Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City is the largest city in the state of Utah and certainly has the largest presence in terms of an urban development and that dining scene and the entertainment options and sporting events and everything that you would expect that would come from a major US city. And so that's mostly found in Salt Lake City, and the other cities to the north and to the south of Salt Lake City, being Ogden and Provo respectively, are other smaller cities that are really growing tremendously fast. In fact, the Provo-Orem metropolitan area is the fastest growing metro area in the entire state of Utah, as Utah County, which sits just south of Salt Lake City, is exploding in popularity as well as growth. But I think overall, the greatest advantage that Utah offers over any other relocation destination is the unique balance and mix between urban lifestyle, suburban lifestyle, and the beautiful outdoors that we get to experience here. So it's that blend of those 3 elements. No matter where you live, for the most part, you're within 30 minutes of all of those options. It's just amazing. And that is very unique to Salt Lake City and the other metropolitan areas here, because you don't find that in most cities around the country. So first thing you've got to do is you've really got to dial in which area looks most appealing to you, and that has to take into account all of the different factors that come when making a decision to move somewhere. And of course, that involves your job. Do you work remotely? Do you commute? What do you expect your commute time to be? And so those are the very first things you really want to consider when making the move. How does it impact your daily commute or your work-life balance in terms of your schedule? And that can definitely be different depending on which area you're living in. But beyond that, it's which areas have the best schools if you have children. If you don't have children and you're looking to study or go into the higher universities yourself, where are those universities located? We have a number of world-class universities here in the state of Utah, in the University of Utah, Brigham Young University, Utah State, and Weber State, as well as Utah Valley University and others. So there's plenty of opportunities in terms of education here in the state of Utah, and it ranks in the top 10 in the entire country. And so that might play a role in where you choose to live yourself yourself as well. Other key factors to consider is, what is your lifestyle? Do you really want to get out in the mountains, in the outdoors on a regular basis? Well, that might impact exactly where you want to live, depending on what it is that you enjoy doing. So if you love to go skiing, if you love to go mountain biking or hiking, or just exploring the beautiful outdoors, or if you like to frequent our state parks or the 5 national parks down in southern Utah, those factors will really drive your decision as to where you end up. So all things considered, it's not just work, it's life, it's family, it's your lifestyle, it's all the things that are appealing to you that you want to take into account before you actually narrow down which area where you want to live. And beyond just those factors, we want to take into account cost of living in different areas, because there are different costs of living depending on where you're living. For example, if you live up north in Weber County, which is in the Ogden metropolitan area, you might find that you get more for your money in terms of a house, in terms of living expenses, than what you get here in the Salt Lake City metropolitan area. So it really depends on what is appealing to you. Okay, so for this first item on the list, how do you actually do the research? There's obviously tons of options. You can use websites, you can use blog posts and forums, you can do YouTube videos like you're doing right now watching my video. There's so many different ways, but I believe that the very best way to really narrow down what it is that you're looking for and where the best area might be for you is to have a one-on-one personal conversation. And that's really where I step in. I love having those video conversations with clients that are making the move to Utah. It doesn't matter if it's in a month from now or a year from now or beyond. Those conversations will really help guide you, because I can share my screen with you, answer your specific questions, and it really does help people save a lot of time on the back end, making sure that you're finding a spot that's right for you and or your family. So if that's you, you can find the link to book a call with me down in the pinned comment on this and every video. And if you do book that call, I'll be able to get on that video right here with you and make sure that we talk about the different things that might be appealing to you, so that you can better plan your move, whether that be very soon or in 2025 or even 2026 or beyond. Regardless, reach out to me, book the call, let's get in touch and make sure that we can serve you and make sure that we can dial in which area is probably going to be the best for you. All right, step number 2. The number 2 thing on this checklist that you really have to dial in is, what is the cost of living and what is the breakdown as to what you need to know before making the move to Utah. When you move to a different state, there are so many factors that you're just unfamiliar with. What is my electricity bill going to look like? What is my natural gas bill going to look like? What does homeowners insurance cost, or property and casualty insurance? All the different factors that play into your daily budget, we really want to dial those things in so that you know what to expect. And at the top of this list, we want to really analyze, what is the cost of living here in Utah? I've done numerous videos on the cost of living in Utah, but when I get to have conversations with you specifically, we can really compare the cost of living based on where you're coming from and really contrast and compare the differences between the cost of living in those areas. Because as everybody knows, even though one thing can be super expensive in one state versus another, there are other things that come into play. For example, I have a lot of people talking to me about taxes. And so when you take into account all taxes, your entire tax burden as to what it costs to live in a specific state, we can make comparisons between different states. For example, if you're moving here from Texas and you don't have income tax, you're coming to a state where we have almost a 5% flat income tax, but how does that impact your total tax burden? Well, here we have far lower property taxes. We have other taxes that are lower than Texas as well, and we have far less expensive electricity. So all these things considered, we want to make sure that you understand what to expect depending on where you're coming from and dial in those costs so that you could be better prepared for your move. Next up, we want to take into account, what is a reasonable budget to make the move? Do you need a moving company? Do you have other expenses that maybe perhaps are not covered by a relocation company or your business that you work for? Whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that you analyze those costs carefully so that you're better prepared to make the move. And of course, all sorts of hidden costs can show up. We want to talk about the HOA fees. We want to talk about anything that might impact your daily budget. And I believe that the best way to prepare you to make that move here is taking into account all of your different expenses, and we include contingencies for things that potentially might pop up. The other factor that really comes into play to factoring in your budget and the cost of living here is, of course, your largest expense, and that is a mortgage. This is where we shine as a team. We have several local lenders right here on our team that serve people at the highest level that we'll get you in touch with and make sure that they're guiding you through all of the decisions leading up to that time of purchase, whether that be just in a few months, a few weeks, or even a few years from now. Regardless, getting in touch with one of these lenders that has a heart of a teacher as opposed to a heart of a salesperson is crucial. If that's you and you're looking to make the move, it doesn't matter if it's a year out, get in touch with us so that we can get you in flow with a proper lender that can guide you and serve you and make sure that you're best prepared so that you get the best home buying experience and so that you're set up for success in the future. All right, moving on. Step number 3 is my favorite part, and that's really where I come in, and that is helping helping you navigate the local real estate market. So now you've chosen the area that you want to live, you've dialed in your expenses, you've met with either virtually or in person, or talked to and analyzed your expenses with a mortgage lender to make sure that you're best prepared to make the move here. Now it's time to go house hunting. And Utah's housing market, just like so many places across the country, is very fluid. It changes oftentimes from month to month. And so this fast-paced real estate market that we experience in Utah, being the fastest growing state in the entire country since 2010, is something that I am an expert with. This is where we really come in as a team. We shine. We make sure that we guide you through the market conditions for the specific time that you're moving here so that you know what to expect. Are you going to be in situations where you have multiple offer scenarios? Are you going to have to be competitive? Now, luckily, that's not the case right now. We have a little bit more of a balanced market, but despite how much interest rates have risen, we still sit in a seller's market. We still see ourselves with a lower level of inventory of homes for buyers than we do demand. Demand has outpaced supply for many years in Utah. In fact, since 2008, we've only had 1 year where we actually built enough new homes for that given year, and that was just in 2022. But every other year otherwise, we've underbuilt. We haven't been able to keep up with the massive amount of growth, and as Utah continues to grow in popularity, this is something worth knowing and understanding so that you have a real estate team and agent and broker that are on your side to make sure they guide you through the local real estate market and make sure that we get you into the right home for you. And in addition to knowing the market inside and out, we are relocation specialists. My team and I, we have built our entire business around making sure that we can help people regardless where they're moving from, but also understanding the things that they need to know when making that move to the state of Utah. And we do this all the time. And this isn't just for resale homes. This isn't just existing homes. This is with new construction developments as well. So we are new construction experts as well as relocation experts. So if you're a little unclear as to which direction you'd want to go, I can absolutely address all those questions when we schedule a call. So schedule that call with me so that we can make sure that we guide you through the local real estate market here and make sure that you're best prepared and know what to expect when you actually make the move. And another thing that we've helped numerous clients accomplish as well is some people are looking to rent first when they come. So we can help you analyze what's best, renting or buying right out of the gate. And sometimes for some people, it's definitely best to rent. And we've helped numerous clients get into rentals as well. That doesn't matter to us. We love helping clients and serve clients make that move to the state of Utah regardless. Okay, so now we're moving on to step 4. This has to do with your job, your employment, anything that you do to make money. So regardless of whether or not you probably have a job already lined up when you make the move here, if you need help with resources, getting in touch with the right people in different industries, we can help with that as well. And oftentimes we help people make the move here where one person is relocating here because of their job relocation, but the other person needs to find a job based on their industry and their interests and their talents and everything in between. We love helping those people as well to connect with the right people to make sure that you can network in such a way that you can find those opportunities, because Utah's job market is very strong in most industries, and it's one of the strongest job markets in the entire country. And I totally understand that most people are probably going to be doing their research and lining up those job opportunities before they actually make the move here, which is very smart. And something that a lot of people are surprised with is the very high rate of remote jobs here that we have. We have a lot of people that work remotely, and I would actually argue that most of the people that I know in my neighborhood, they work remotely or they work from home. It's pretty crazy how high that is here in Utah, which really adds to the benefits of being able to live where you want to live and not have to worry about those commutes and be able to take advantage of these beautiful outdoors and everything that Utah has to offer. All right, moving on. The 6th thing you really have to concern yourself with is education. Do you have children? Do they need to get into public schools, charter schools, private schools, anything in between? There are so many different models here in Utah, and there's so much freedom and flexibility in your child's education here. I would encourage you to reach out so that we can make sure that we get you in touch with the right resources to analyze school ratings, to analyze which area might be the best for you and your family based on education. Now, as a real estate broker and agent, I cannot discuss neighborhood specifics in terms of crime or education or school ratings, but what I can do is share valuable resources that are the best tools that you can use to find out the school rankings based on the area that you're really considering. And it's really a valuable way to experience what it's going to look like to live in a specific area. And those are tools that we put into our checklist as well. All right, next up, now that we've got the big stuff out of the way, the next thing you really need to worry about is acclimating yourself to the state of Utah in terms of the weather and the climate. Now, if you're making the move here and you're living along the Wasatch Front, whether that be Salt Lake City, Ogden, Provo, doesn't matter, you're probably going to be around 4,500 feet to 5,000 feet elevation, which is just short of a mile high in altitude. And that altitude sickness that people talk about can be a real effect. From my experience, it really goes away and dissipates within just a few short weeks. And typically within 1 month, your body is pretty well acclimated to the higher altitude here, meaning we have less oxygen in the air. Therefore, your bloodstream has to adapt and make sure that your body can really get acclimated to the higher altitude. I even think that this is an advantage with our local sports teams, whether that be the Utah Jazz, the upcoming first inaugural season to the Utah Hockey Club, or our university and collegiate athletics in terms of competitive advantages when other teams come from other states where they're just not used to the altitude. And I gotta be honest, whatever advantage it gives us, great, I love it. It's why we have great home court advantages in our sports teams. Maybe it's a small part of it. Regardless, it's something to consider. Your body will naturally acclimate as you get here. But beyond that, we wanna talk about the weather, what to expect. And most people that I talk to are actually making the move here, and they're excited about the opportunity to have 4 distinct seasons. They're going to get the best that summer has to offer, as well as all of the snow that comes in wintertime. And although being a little bit bipolar, we have a spring and a fall as well. Sometimes those seasons get a little murky in terms of sometimes fall weather can feel like summer or winter and vice versa with spring. It just depends on the week. And so those seasons that we really get to experience here in Utah are something that you might have to get used to depending on where you're coming from. My wife, for example, came from Southern California in Orange County, and for her to acclimate to the snow and the winter weather here, it's not her favorite thing. She really misses that about California, but Utah has so much more to offer than just snow. And to be honest with you, down here in the valleys, we don't get nearly as much snow as up in the mountains within just a 20-minute drive, and it doesn't affect your life as much as you might think, especially being in such a dry climate where that snow usually comes and it melts off, or it just isn't a problem any longer after a few hours or even at the most a few days when those big storms really do hit. But the other thing I wanted to bring up on the topic of weather is getting used to our dry, arid climate. We are one of the driest states in the country. And so when you come here, the air is really dry. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it in your skin. You're going to have to probably drink more and hydrate more. You're also likely going to have to step up your game in terms of your skincare routines and your hair care routines, whatever the case may be. You're going to want to make sure that you get prepared for this new climate, and that can be a stark difference based on where you're coming from. All right, next up, the next step in making the move to Utah and making it a successful move is finding and hiring the right moving company. This is something specifically that I've had numerous clients have a very difficult time in finding a reputable and trustworthy moving company. So we want to make sure that we're building out our resources as a real estate team to make sure that we can guide clients. If this is something that you already have through a company or whatever relocation service you're using, great. But if you need some references for some really reputable and trustworthy moving companies, we have built that out. We now have awesome relationships with moving companies that can help you make that successful move as well. And moving horror stories are some of the worst. We see people that get scammed out of money. We see people that get scammed out of all sorts of things. We also see people with damaged furniture. There's no liability. There's no accountability on the part of the moving company to make sure they make you whole again, or just general carelessness and unprofessionalism. We want to make sure that who you're working with is actually going to make this process less stressful and not more stressful. And moving is a big deal. It's one of the most stressful events that will ever happen in your life, and that is magnified especially if you're moving from one state to another. So whether you hire a full service moving company or you DIY it and you rent the moving trucks yourselves, regardless, you're going to probably want to get some advice from us where we've helped so many people make that move so that we can make sure that you have a checklist of things to do during that moving process and during the hiring of a moving company or the reservation of those trucks. Regardless, a checklist comes in very handy. Also included in that checklist is some really valuable tips and tricks for packing and boxing everything up. I'm telling you, I've seen so many people make the move and so many of their things get broken. We want to make sure that you can do this in an efficient and easy way so that you don't have to waste time researching. You can actually just know what to order. Boom, 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 everything gets done and sets you on a path to a successful transaction and closing and moving here to Utah. All right, next up on the checklist, it's actually arriving in Utah. We want to make sure that we get you all settled in with all the things you need to do now that you've found a location and you've bought a home and you've made the move. Now you've got to get settled in. And the first part of that is going to get you set up with all the utilities and the services that you need in your home, whether that be your power, your gas, your sewer and water bills, your resources for whatever it is, neighborhood specific to that area, your HOA, your internet, all those things. We have a full list of all of the different providers depending on the area that you're moving to, so that we provide that proactively in the transaction process to make sure that we're guiding you through the entire process, to make sure that we make that process as easy as possible. Our goal and our standard is to have proactively answered each and every question before you even have to ask it. So that is our goal and our standard. And we do that not only up to the moment where you purchase a home, but also moving in as well and after the transaction is complete. Other things to consider are, of course, changing your address on all of your other things that you have to account for, but also, I think this is a big one, it's community involvement. What can you do to really blend in and really get into the community where you're living and make sure that you're integrated in such a way where you feel welcome, you have support, you make new friends, because you'll want that as well. And that can come oftentimes through Facebook groups, through HOA communities, as well as other resources that are available depending on the neighborhood that's specific to the area where you're moving. We want to make sure that we put those together for you as well, and that's part of the checklist also. All right, next up, I think this next one's a big one, and that is plugging in with local providers for services that you're just not familiar with because you're moving to a new state. This can be an insurance agent, a property and casualty insurance, a financial planner, an accountant, whatever the case may be. I have incredibly valuable relationships with some of the best people in the state of Utah, and my requirement in order to be on my list of providers that I refer out, they have to have the heart of a teacher. They have to care for the interest of the other person more than themselves, and that is important when you're making a decision as to who you're choosing to work with, regardless of whether or not you're buying car insurance or where you're choosing to invest your money. Regardless, those are important relationships for me, and they are some of the most valuable relationships that I've ever built, and so that's a resource within the checklist as well. Now, I love being the resource where everybody reaches out to me. Do you know someone that does this? Do you know somebody that does that? Do you have a roofer? Do you have a financial planner? Do you have whatever the case may be? I think it's incredibly important for me as a real estate resource. I also need to be a connector and a resource for all of these other industries. I will not refer somebody that I do not trust. So when I send you somebody that's a mortgage lender, a home inspector, a home warranty company, a financial planner, an accountant, an insurance agent, regardless of what that referral is, it's somebody that I've done a lot of business with, and I know that they're going to take care of my clients just as I would expect. And I can't overstate this. I think it's so important to start planning early. So if you're looking to make the move in 2025, now is the time to get in touch, and let's get the ball rolling to make sure that this is as smooth as possible for you. But even if you're looking to move beyond 2025, it doesn't matter. You've got to plan ahead and make sure that you're getting all of the things lined up so that you can make this as smooth of a process as possible. And for this reason, my team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. I would love to have a conversation as your real estate professional to make sure that we guide you through this process. I would encourage you to reach out to me. You can find my contact information down in the description below, or you can book that call with me on the pinned comment on this and every video. And please reach out. We can get in touch and set you on a path to a successful transition to the beautiful state of Utah. And if you want to learn more about life in Utah, check out this playlist next. And until next time, thanks.